I love Larry Zbyszko. He's the fucking man. But Larry Zbyszko, I wonder who's going to be inducting him. Now, that much we did not talk about on Monday night. Now, let me set it up properly for Larry Zbyszko, for those of you that's not familiar with him, and then I'll give you my thoughts on who's probably going to induct him. So, basically, Larry Zbyszko was trained by Bruno Sammartino. Basically, it was Bruno that really helped Larry get both feet in the door as far as being in the wrestling industry. One of the first memories that I have as a kid growing up in the 80s, I used to watch a lot of my wrestling with my uncle and my dad. Also my mom as well. I remember my mom was a wrestling fan too back then. She kind of faded off just a little bit when the Attitude Era hit, but she still knew what was going on. She knew about the Rocks, the Stone Colds, the Triple H's and all that. She had a crush on Stone Cold. That bald head and the goatee, the short jean shorts and all that, and the way he would just walk and beat the crap out of people. She loved that. She thought he was one sexy mother lover, okay? But we're talking about Larry Zbyszko here. So there was an exhibition match that happened around 1980 with Bruno and Larry. And Bruno ended up getting the victory over Larry. And after that, you got to remember, at this point, Larry was a babyface. And after the match was over, Bruno extended his hand out and was like, hey, you did a good job. There, kid. You're off to a good start. And Zbyszko just freaking snapped, man. He just started beating the holy crap out of him. I mean, it was so bad. He beat Bruno into a bloody pulp. And from there, Larry Zbyszko, the heel, was born. Larry, Bruno, they engulfed in a feud for like months. It basically culminated in New York at the Shea Stadium. Same year, 1980, that has saw Sammartino defeat Zbyszko in front of an audience of like over 30,000. I don't know the exact number, but it was like over 30,000. And, from there, and we're talking about a time where I believe that was WWF, so Worldwide Wrestling Federation. All this was going on while it was still Vince McMahon Sr. that was running the ship and everything. A little bit after that, Larry had went to the independent scene, worked with Bruno's son David for a little bit before heading to the AWA. He made his pit stop over in the AWA at least on 3 occasions, but he spent most of his time there. Anybody that's a true wrestling fan, true wrestling historian, they'll be able to tell you a lot of the fondest memories, a lot of his great work and all that. AWA, you can really trace it back. And it's kind of crappy, like when you think about the AWA documentary that had came out a couple of years ago. To me, to each its own, but to me, I felt like they really didn't do it justice in talking about Larry Zbyszko and all that. I mean, they focused on a lot of other areas, but I thought Larry, everything that he contributed to AWA, I really felt that they didn't hype it up enough, that it should have gotten a little bit more exposure. But one of the many times that he worked for AWA, he had a long feud with Sergeant Slaughter for the AWA title. And I mean, we're talking about a time where Sergeant Slaughter was doing his thing, homing his craft, perfecting that Sergeant Slaughter character way before he even went over to the WWF. A lot of people are under the impression that Sergeant Slaughter was born in WWF. No, Sergeant Slaughter was doing its thing on the independent circuits, and everybody was just really introduced to it mainstream wise through the AWA brand. And you think about Larry Zbyszko's feuds with Nick Bockwinkel, the Texas Death Match that they had, Rage in a Cage in 1986. Also, one of the last times Zbyszko was there in AWA, how he helped out Kurt Hennig become the AWA champion. See what else. Yeah, of course, the stuff that he did in WCW, where he was hosting Monday Nitro alongside Tony Schiavone, while also juggling a feud with Scott Hall and the NWO. The match that he had with Eric Bischoff, culminating in a winner take all as far as control for WCW goes and all that. You think about his work that he did in TNA wrestling, where, and a lot of people don't really talk about this, but he managed the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. He had a great feud with Eric Young and who's the other one? Raven. Those two ended up having a hair versus hair match. I mean, a lot of great memories. I'm ecstatic that Larry Zbyszko is going into the Hall of Fame. It kind of adds a little bit more weight to this Hall of Fame class, because before you put Larry Zbyszko in there, it was kind of like, other than Macho Man Randy Savage, and we kind of got to exclude what's going on there with Connor the Crusher, just put those two individuals to the side. The Hall of Fame card was looking rather weak. It was like, so I'm really glad that they put Larry Zbyszko in there. Of course, we're hearing the rumblings that Kevin Nash may still be announced for the WWE Hall of Fame. It could come next week. It's very well possible. Rumblings are saying that Shawn Michaels is probably going to be the one to induct him and all that. And honestly, maybe Kevin Nash does deserve to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. I feel he doesn't, but maybe he does deserve to go in. But I feel he shouldn't be going in for a few more years, that there's other people that definitely need to go in before him. And I think that's just really the greatest travesty of it all, is that he is possibly going to be able to go in before all those other people that aren't able to go in. I mean, look, we can all be in agreement. It's fucked up if it is going to go down with Kevin Nash going into the 2015 class for the WWE Hall of Fame. Yeah, it's fucked up that Owen Hart, he's not in there, and Kevin Nash goes in before Owen Hart. Yeah, I think that's going to be very... don't even get me started on the Hall of Shame as far as the people that still are not in the WWE Hall of Fame. It's kind of like, sometimes it reminds me a lot like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, my God, those guys, they stay fucking that up, don't they? But I digress. But, as far as who should induct Larry Zbyszko into the WWE Hall of Fame, Bruno Sammartino, hands down. Those guys have a lot of history together. They're good friends and all that. Honestly, I can't see anybody else. It's got to be Bruno. You got to have it be Bruno. I'm not going to accept anything less than that. Because when it's all said and done, Bruno broke in Larry Zbyszko. He got him into the business. So it really makes a lot of sense in the world for Bruno to induct Larry Zbyszko into the Hall of Fame. I mean, the only way I could see somebody else doing it is if Bruno is under the weather and unfortunately, he's not able to go there WrestleMania weekend and induct his good friend. That's the only way I see it not happening, and that they'll have to go with somebody else.